James Ward-Prowse is on his way back to West Ham United. The news was broken last night by David Ornstein from The Athletic that the two clubs have reached an agreement in order to terminate this loan. There was no recall clause in the contract, so West Ham couldn't just click their fingers and get him back during the January transfer window. They would have to negotiate with Nottingham Forest, and both clubs would have to come to an agreement in order to cancel this loan. But it appears that's happened, and Ward-Prowse will play for West Ham for the remainder of the season. And I think it's good news. So let's discuss it. Before we do, subscribe, drop a like on the video by clicking thumbs up. You know what to do. Let's get straight into it. I think this makes sense. I think it makes sense for Nottingham Forest. I think it makes sense for West Ham United. And most importantly, I think it makes sense for James Ward-Prowse. If we rewind back to the summer when he went out on loan, it wasn't really a move I could get on board with. We just spent 30 million on him 12 months before that. I thought he had a solid first season at West Ham, a good amount of goals and assists. His performances were perhaps not the greatest, but I thought he was a valuable member of the team and someone we just spent 30 million on, homegrown, and I thought he'd work under Lopetegui. And from what I've seen from Lopetegui, that opinion remains the same. I think he would have done all right in his tactics. Not to say that Lopetegui's tactics were all right, but I think Ward-Prowse would have been able to do what Lopetegui wanted. I thought it was a bit of a strange move at the time, and I still think it was. I assume it was in order to accommodate us loaning in Carlos Soler from a wage perspective. Having seen Soler so far, the jury's still out for me, so I'd suggest it maybe wasn't the best decision West Ham made. But anyway, off he went to Nottingham Forest, and I was going to say it's been a bad loan move. I think it's been an unfortunate loan move for him. Because when he went there, he was in the team first of all. Then he got that red card at Stamford Bridge, and it was a good red card to take, a very selfless second yellow to take, so Forest could go on and get the result with 10 men. And then he just struggled to get into the team. But Forest kept on winning. Forest were impressive while he was sat on the bench watching. Forest were doing really well, and he was sort of used to come on sometimes, not very often. Sometimes he'd come on quite late on in the game. Even it's not changed. Post-Christmas, 3 games off the bench I think he's had. He played in the FA Cup against Luton as well. So he's found it really difficult to get into the team. But when you look at how good Forest have been, we can have no complaints. He's not in the team because anything he's done. I'm sure he's been a model professional. And I think that's why it's probably been a good loan move for Nottingham Forest. Yes, he hasn't featured much, but he's not caused any disruptions. He would have been a good influence off the pitch. Arguably, that could be his downfall to some extent, that he just gets his head down and gets on with things. But in terms of his situation at Forest, he wasn't even in the squad on Saturday when they beat Brighton. He's fit and he's available, but he didn't even make the bench. And we can't have much complaints, because when you look at how the players are performing at Forest, when he went there, Danilo and Sangari were out with big injuries, and Danilo's possibly expected to miss the entire season, but he's back now. So he's behind Danilo, he's behind Sangari, he's behind Yates, Dominguez, Elliot Anderson. You can make a case for Gibbs White, possibly even missing, because on Saturday they played 3 midfielders rather than just 2. I feel like I'm missing someone else for some reason, but he's 7th choice central midfielder. 7th choice. He ain't getting game time between now and this season, and if he does, it'll be very few and far between. So I think it makes sense from West Ham's perspective. What will be interesting is who initiated this, by the way. Is Forest the one that said, "Oi, West Ham, do you want him back?" Because it would make sense. They've got 2 players on loan right this second, Ward-Prowse and Alex Moreno, so they can't loan in another Premier League player. So getting Ward-Prowse out the door, because they don't need him, would mean they can get someone in. Now, earlier in the window, they were bidding for Wissa, so are they eyeing up a loan with an obligation for a Premier League based player? It'll be interesting, actually, if Forest do bring somebody else in on loan from a domestic side of things. I wouldn't be surprised. They've left it late, but maybe they've got something lined up. Maybe they've got a loan with an obligation to buy for a Premier League based player, and they know that West Ham will have Ward-Prowse back. If it is Forest, you'd imagine financially West Ham will be okay, in the sense that we perhaps won't need to, I don't know how it would work, a pro rata refund. Is that how it would work in terms of the loan fee they paid? Because Forest would have paid a few million to get Ward-Prowse on loan for the season. But if West Ham's initiated it, you'd imagine the refund of funds would have occurred. And that would be interesting, because that would be Graham Potter saying, I want him back. I want to have a look at him. I hope it's the latter. I hope it's a West Ham decision and that it's Potter that wants him back rather than the Forest one, and Ward-Prowse has sort of been forced upon us to some extent. But the reason I hope we're getting him back is because the minute Graham Potter rocked up, I just seen this as an 7-month pre-season. Get ready for kicking off in August. Mid-August, Premier League season gets underway. Between now and then, use it as a pre-season. Evaluate your players. Plan for the summer. And I think Ward-Prowse is one of those players that really needs evaluated. And worst case scenario, hopefully, drive his market value up a bit, because it's only depreciated while he's been at Nottingham Forest. I think in the summer, had we wanted to move him on, we would have managed. There'd have been plenty of clubs that would have taken him. You know, Southampton in the Championship would have taken him, you'd imagine so. We won't get anywhere near our 30 million back, but hopefully he can have a strong second half to the season, get that value back up again, get the clubs interested up, and at the same time, Graham Potter can have a look at him and decide if he wants to retain him for next season. It's possible that Potter would like him. I think in terms of the style of football we play, he would suit it because it's a bit more possession-based. But we're going to continue with this box midfield, which I think we will. So the two sitting in front of the defence and then the two attacking midfielders. Unsure where Ward-Prowse fits into that. He's sort of can do a bit of both, but jack of all trades, master none, really. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see Ward-Prowse become a bit of a Swiss Army knife between now and the end of the season, where he sometimes plays in that deeper midfield role next to Alvarez or Souček, in that number 10 role at some games, because one of his best performances against Arsenal was in that role with his pressing. I wouldn't be surprised if you see him at right wing back. I would not be surprised if you see him at right wing back sometimes. Had some experience playing right back for Southampton previously. He doesn't have the pace, but he's got the energy. He's got the crossing ability as well. So it'll be interesting to see how Potter utilises him. But I think you'll see him play all three different roles throughout the season. But what I do think is he's a good option to have, even if he's just, our next game against Brentford, and if he's just on the bench, the bench looks better. The only frustration with it would be that it'll probably see Lewis Orford come off the bench in order to accommodate James Ward-Prowse. But I'm hoping that maybe someone will take Rodriguez off our hands today. He wanted out. I think it was very public about how he wanted out in the January transfer window. No one's come for him, despite the fact that there was some talk West Ham were looking to recoup his wages and his signing on bonus of a couple of £1 million or whatever it would have been. Makes sense, but this is why I mentioned the financial thing with Nottingham Forest. If they're the one that sent him back, said, look here, just take him back. Don't worry about the loan fee, just have him. Would that sort of benefit, would Rodriguez benefit? Could we then just let him go on a free transfer if someone takes him off our hands and we don't have to pay his wages anymore? We'll wait and see. But I think Rodriguez is further down the pecking order too, with Ward-Prowse coming back. But I think it's a really good option for Graham Potter to have in the squad. I think the bench will look better for it. In terms of Ward-Prowse, just unlucky with his move to Forest, because who would have thought Forest would have been this good this season? Nobody. I don't even think Nottingham Forest fans would have expected them to be in the hunt for Champions League football. So I think at the time it was the right club to go to. A club with two central midfielders with long-term injuries. Makes sense to go there, compete with, Yates and Dominguez, who hasn't looked that great last season. He's improved this season. But go compete with those two. Elliot Anderson had gone there for big money. Kind of. There was a bit of a PSR thing because they'd sold a player to Newcastle as well. But I think it was a fair call for Ward-Prowse then, but it's just not worked out, more because of how good Nottingham Forest are than how bad James Ward-Prowse is. So anyway, like a new signing, while we say it with tongue-in-cheek, but for Graham Potter, it is. But I think the most important thing about this loan deal for me is that Graham Potter gets to have a really good look at him over the next 4 months, because I've got absolutely no doubts about James Ward-Prowse's character, how professional he is, and he'll be a good person to have in your squad. It's just whether he suits how Graham Potter wants to play at West Ham. Unsure. Style, yes. Tactics, as in positioning and the requirements of those positions, I'm not so sure. But that's what we're going to discover in the next 4 months. I think this is good news for all three parties, and hopefully we can add Evan Ferguson. So the latest is Ferguson's passed his medical. He's doing his media work as we speak, well, as I speak and you listen right now, so that should be announced later on today. Krupi, apparently his agent's starting to play. I've seen the stories that his agent's advising him not to come to West Ham yet. I'm taking that with a pinch of salt. I feel like it's a little bit out of David Sullivan's... I just don't trust David Sullivan as far as I can throw him. I feel like it's out of his handbook a little bit, that the agent is causing problems, but we can discuss that in another video. Anyway, I say enjoy your day. Enjoy Deadline Day. I like it. I like all the movers and shakers and all the rumours and stuff like that. Where's Matthias Tell going to go? Maybe nowhere. No, he's not coming to West Ham. I was always saying maybe West Ham. He's definitely not. It's just somebody I would love at West Ham. That's all. Right. Like the video. Subscribe. Catch you in a bit.